Knockmourne, Knockmourne, the hill of Cuaran. Cuaran was a saint, probably of the 7th century, who founded an abbey here at Knockmourne. The abbey is about 100 metres north of the River Bride and about a kilometre west of the current village of Connacht. Cuaran founded a church also in the local townland of Kilcoran, but that church site is completely gone. There is nothing left there now. The church of Knockmourne is mentioned in the papal taxation of 1291. It's the ruins of a 12th century church in a rectangular graveyard standing about 50 or 60 metres off the Fermoy to Connor Road.
Okay, go.
This church has undergone many alterations over the centuries and has a checkered history. It was associated, according to local historians, with the Knights Hospitallers, probably during the 14th century, as they had been granted lands and churches in the locality at Temple Valley and at Ballyknoe. This would have been after the suppression of the Knights Templar in 1311. Lestrange, in his book Connacht and the Desmonds, says that this church, along with other churches, was given to the nunnery at Kilclehan or Kilcleheen in County Kilkenny in the mid-14th century. This might explain why this church is often referred to as the glebe. A glebe was lands that were given as a payment or as a support to an order or to a priest. Although the Reformation occurred in 1540 in Britain under Henry VIII, the effects of it were not felt greatly here in Connacht for maybe 40 years or maybe 50 years towards the end of the 16th century. And it's said that this tithe that was being paid to the abbey or the nunnery of St. Mary's in Kilclehan was transferred to be paid to Waterford City for the sheriffs, the citizens and the commonalty of Waterford in 1584. What an extraordinary situation that this village in County Cork was paying a tithe to Waterford Corporation. During the 16th century, there was much civil unrest here around Connacht. We had a castle that had been built by the Desmonds at Connacht. It was the centre of power in this area, and it had created a rebellion against the crown. One of the Desmonds' relations, the chief of the Clan Gibbon, the White Knight of Mitchelstown, who was also a Fitzgerald, was part of the crown reaction to the Desmond rebellion. And he came down here in 1570 and he burned this abbey here at Knockmourne. After the fire that burned this abbey in 1570, the church was restored again. But it was reported in Brady that it was burned by the Irish in the late war in 1694. In the early 17th century, this area had had a period of greater peace and also some prosperity after Lord Cork, Richard Boyle, had bought the estates of Walter Raleigh and some of the Beecher estate. But what had happened was that Richard Boyle was using the oak forests of North Cork and West Waterford to fire his foundries which he had built at Tallow, at Fermoy and at Araglin. Richard Boyle, Earl of Cork, brought over English farmer tenants to farm his lands in North Cork. This caused a tremendous antipathy amongst the Irish here, and that's what Brady was referring to when he said that the Irish burned the church here at Knockmourne. This church had been a Protestant church since the late 16th century, and so it was burned by the Irish as a protest against English rule. After the fire of 1641, the church was again repaired. This time the nave was shortened because there had been such damage done here at the west gable. So they introduced a new west gable wall in here about 2 meters in from the original wall. And a new chancel was inserted as well. It's a shallow chancel at the east end. The church was said to be in repair in 1774 as a result of much repairs that were carried out at this period. The Abbey Church at Knockmourne here was the parish church for the Church of Ireland of Knockmourne until 1815, when they built a new church at Curraheen, and this church was abandoned.